Look, I do want to talk because there was quite some confusion yesterday. There was quite some confusion about the charges that had been laid against Kiri Allan about the blood level and when the blood level was taken. I can tell you, I just make the absolute assumption, I have no reason to believe otherwise, she would have been breathalyzed as soon as possible at the scene. So all this conspiracy theory, they waited for 5 hours till she was under the limit. No. You know how it rolls. And there is absolutely no suggestion. And I would challenge anyone who wants to make the suggestion to come up with proof that police acted in anything other but a completely correct manner in relation to this. But what are the charges she faces, and what are the possible consequences of those charges? Well, I thought the best thing we could do is talk to someone who might know something about it rather than make it up off the top of our heads. So we're joined now by Julie-Anne Kincade, King's Counsel, Vice President of the Auckland Law Society. Julie-Anne, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to join us on the platform this morning.
Not at all, Marina.
All right. Now, some confusion. Your understanding, what has the former minister been charged with by way of criminal offence?
My understanding is that her breath test was between 200 and 400, and therefore she's been charged with the infringement offence, which is a $200 fine and 50 demerit points, which would be the usual charge within that bracket. Okay,
so and that is not a criminal offence?
Well, it's an infringement, so it means that it can be dealt with without a court appearance usually, and that's the normal way that offending in that bracket is dealt with. Okay.
So that's pretty, low end and pretty straightforward. Now, there was yesterday morning, and let's just deal with them one at a time. We'll start with it was reported that she was resisting arrest. That's, in fact, what she had told the Prime Minister or the Prime Minister's people. That has now been changed to failing to accompany or not accompanying a police officer. Tell us about what that offence means and what the possible penalties for that are.
Well, that's interesting, and thank you for letting me know that. I hadn't caught up with that piece of information. I'm sorry about that. The one thing that I had also heard was about the possibility of being charged with careless driving. Yeah. So yeah. I don't know if that.
Well, I was thought we'd deal with them separately if we could.
Okay. Yes, of course. So so far as failing to accompany, again, it's pretty low level. And it's at this stage of the proceedings. Obviously, I'm not representing, and so I don't have any information.
No, but, we have to. I have to stress, you are simply responding with some expert background to the same information we all have. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try. I'll do my best. And so, it's a Category 1 offending. If it's refusing to accompany, it's finable only, and that can often be as a result of people being very distressed. May not be responding just exactly as the police officer thinks they should be responding at that particular time if they're overwhelmed with the enormity of the situation that they're
which
in.
One imagines, and I've been in this situation, I did go with the police when I got done for drunk driving, but I know it's a pretty surreal experience to go through, and I suppose for this minister who would have been thinking about her job, her responsibilities and the consequences, it would have been bad. So that's So that, you say a Category 1 offence, that'd be a fine rather than prison time?
Absolutely, yes. It's similar to the in the infringement level of offending. So again, it's very low level. Okay,
very low level. And what about careless driving? Because I didn't know, you might be able to help me. Is there reckless driving and careless driving? Is there a difference?
Definitely a difference. So reckless driving is a more serious offence. Careless driving sounds like the appropriate category of offending here, where there may have been a momentary lapse of attention, it's just that's the type of thing it can often cover. So this could be just a situation of bad judgment and nothing more severe than that. And again, it's a low level offending. Okay. It would
do you put before the court? Do the careless driving and the breath alcohol thing go together?
Well, it just depends how the Minister wants to deal with everything once she's got all the disclosure and got all the information. For example, she could deal with the infringement matter outside the court proceeding hearing and then deal with careless driving inside in a courtroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do those two, the failing to accompany and the careless driving, do they require a court appearance?
They will if they carry on, but when people are faced in a situation where they're first offenders, you may be aware that there's a possibility of looking into possibly diversion.
Yeah.
And there are also mechanisms, particularly used in this post-COVID era, of people not having to appear in court and things being done on the papers.
Right.
So,
do either of those charges potentially carry jail time or prison time?
The careless driving would be the most serious offence, and I'm so sorry that I just don't have to hand it.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
But could we say unlikely on a first offence?
Oh, definitely unlikely.
Okay.
That would be ridiculous. Yeah.
So let's and look, it's been really helpful talking to you, because what you're telling me is all three of these, well, transgressions, let's call them that in a general sense, none of them are high crimes and misdemeanours here. They are all at the lower end of the scale of offending in each of the categories.
Absolutely. And were it not for the role that Alan had at the time, I would expect anyone facing those sort of charges for a first-time offender with a good lawyer to be able to discuss a variety of options with the police. And
I think it's important we say that too, Julie-Anne, because, of course, the accusation will come if, you know, the Minister isn't swinging from a gibbet somewhere. The accusation will be that she got let off easy or anything. But the fact is, anyone facing these charges, Minister or not, has all sorts of options with good legal representation to not go to prison and not face the firing squad.
Absolutely. And I think it's particularly harsh when you look at this situation. The court would take into account, for example, that the fact that someone has lost their job as a result of the offending. That's obviously already a very serious repercussion that's happened already. Yeah. And it's not to say that in this particular circumstance, I make no judgment about it.
And no question of name suppression for her. She's had the public ignominy. And as you said, she's resigned at least one of her jobs. Maybe she'll resign the other. So I think it's really good to get that context. But there is another context here. The Minister is a lawyer. Yeah. What sort of penalties or risks does a lawyer who is charged with these offences, maybe pleads guilty to them or even gets diversion, what is the consequences for the everyday lawyer who might get stuck in this situation?
Well, each year we have to renew our practicing certificate, and we have to fill in a form to say that we're fit and proper. And that part of that form is to inform the Law Society if we have had any incidents that year, such as a driving offence, for example. And we declare it to the Law Society, and the Law Society would then look at the what happened and all of the details, that it may be that a meeting would be required to see if the practicing certificate is renewed. But Sean, I know it won't surprise you to know that lawyers are human beings, and so the Law Society looks at each case on its own merits.
I mean, you charge like gods, Julie. You charge like gods, but you are human beings.
We are, and we are similarly flawed, and so it's not unusual for people to have had issues. The main thing is to be upfront and frank about it. And the Law Society then will consider if any action is required. I don't expect that this would cause any issues so far as issuing a practicing certificate is concerned.
Yeah, okay. So she stays a lawyer. Could she lose her licence over all of this for a short period of time?
Absolutely, yes. That would be a consequence of careless driving if that charge is proved, yes.
Okay, but this is not the Great Train Robbery, is it?
Absolutely not. And but for her role, it's not the sort of thing that would make the papers for any other people. I'm sure there are lots of people out there who've had similar incidents. The main thing is that there's no injury, there's, as far as I know, and that, as you said, everybody's there and has taken account for what's happened. And we can, damages can be paid, things can be fixed, and life carries on.
Julie, that's really useful. Thank you very much indeed for your analysis. Good to talk to someone who knows what they're talking about in regards to these things.
Help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lovely to talk to you.
All right.
Julie-Anne Kincade KC, Auckland Law Society Vice President. So there you go. There's the truth. These aren't huge crimes and misdemeanours. Failing to accompany is different than resisting arrest. The breath thing, probably a $200 fine is what she's going to face there. She might lose her licence for a bit. The careless driving, at the lower end of careless driving, unlikely the minister is going to go to prison, whether or not she was the minister. So let's be realistic about the crimes that have been committed here. And I'm not here to run interference for Kiri Allan. I'm just trying to give you the basic facts of what's happened. And it's not like, there'd be bad tasting, so it's not like she killed her children, is it? There we go. There are the facts of the matter in terms of the criminality. I think the questions now are, why wasn't David Parker appointed as the interim Minister of Justice? Being a lawyer and having already decided that he wasn't going to do anything as Minister of Revenue, he had a bit of time on his hands. Why didn't Chris Hipkins make David Parker the Minister of Justice? It is very curious. Or is there a deep division, a schism in the Labour Party? Some of the old guard, like Parker and like the Finance Minister, Grant Robertson, walking away from Chris Hipkins. Is Chris Hipkins left as the guy, I don't know, in the driver's seat at the scene of the accident that Jacinda Ardern created? Looks bad for Labour. And suddenly all these left-wing journalists have all been saying, aren't Labour wonderful? Isn't there going to be a leadership spill in the National Party? They're all going, Labour have lost the election. Surprise, surprise. Come to the party late. There'll be lots of cognitive dissonance in the legacy media newsrooms today as they realised, that they didn't have any idea what was really going on in New Zealand, despite their serious columns about how terrible National is and how we all should be rainbow and everything else. Suddenly they realised the country just wasn't with them.